A recent report of WHO and UNICEF has highlighted that open defecation is still a major challenge in the world. While there has been some improvement globally, but the problem especially persists in the low-income countries. Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nankyolier, and today we will talk about the challenges highlighted in the report, what is India's position and what needs to be done to tackle these challenges. So this joint monitoring report of WHO and UNICEF, it highlighted that while there has been an improvement in dealing with the open defecation situation globally, but the special problem lies with low-income countries, because here the open defecation rate is 4 times higher the global average. So now this is the only income group that is keeping us from achieving our sustainable development goals by 2030. Which goal? SDG 6. Access to clean water and sanitation. So while there has been an improvement globally, because the stats say that 1.2 billion people gained access to sanitation from 2015 to 2024, and the global coverage of sanitation has also increased from 48% to 58%. So while globally we have seen an improvement, but the problem lies with the low income countries. And what does the report say about India? So it highlights that India is among those countries who have been able to at least achieve a 25 percentage point reduction in open defecation. So in India's case, this reduction was 31%, a 31% reduction to open defecation. And this places India in the moderate progress category. In fact, India has already achieved its Millennium Development Target for increasing access to improved drinking water in both rural areas and urban areas, because in 1990 this access rate was only 71%, but now we have an access rate of 94%. So while these are all commendable achievements, but even in India's scenario, the problem lies with the low income group, the problem lies with the poor people group, because here the progress is not significant. So which countries are doing better? As per the report, the high income countries, the countries which have good infrastructure facility, good sanitation facility, good education, behavioral awareness, where people know that there's a need to use toilets and maintain proper hygiene, these are the countries that perform better, where they are stable economies, they are highly developed economies, and then free from conflicts. These areas, they perform better. Like North America, then Latin America and Caribbean nations. Then we also have East Asia and Southeast Asia and North Africa as well. So all these areas, because they have proper infrastructure, proper investment, proper awareness, these countries are doing better as per the report. These countries have been able to deal with open defecation in a proper manner. And which countries are not performing so good? So these are the countries that are lagging behind because they do not have good infrastructure, good investment, good policies to take care of all these things. And especially these marginalized sectors or the vulnerable sections of the society, their data tracking is also not proper, because right now, when the surveys are done to make these policies, these sections are not being considered appropriately. They're not being included appropriately. So until we know that what the problem is, what is the problem that these vulnerable sections are facing, how will we make good policies? We will not be able to make good policies. That is also one of the reasons that these countries are lacking behind, because they have poor data tracking. And especially these are also countries which have a lot of conflict, like the sub-Saharan countries. And let's face the reality, if you do not have a lot of money, like you do not have money to put food on your table, if you do not have money to have a shelter for yourself, will you really be concerned with building toilets in your home? You will not. So that is the harsh reality of the situation right now, that we do not have enough money. These countries, they are very low income countries. They do not have enough money. There's a lot of poverty. So they're not concerned with sanitation and hygiene at the moment. And that is also one of the reasons that they are lagging behind. Now let us look at the inequalities at different levels. Till now we talked about the income inequality, but it is not just income inequality, because sanitation is not just an infrastructure issue, or it's not just an income issue. This is a socio-economic issue. So there are inequalities across levels. Like there is a rural and urban divide. So in infrastructure also, rural infrastructure lags behind the urban infrastructure. Urban areas have better sanitation facilities and rural areas have disproportionate sanitation facilities. In India's case also, before SBM, in urban areas, sanitation facilities were roughly 60%, and in rural areas, it was less than 20%. So there was a huge divide in rural areas and urban areas also. Then there's also gender inequality, because women and girls, if they do not have access to proper toilets and sanitation facilities, they face harassment issues, they face assault issues, dignity issues, and these things then directly hamper the education also. Because if these schools, they do not have separate toilets, or especially during the time of menstruation, if they do not have separate toilets, girls refrain from going to schools. So this has a direct impact on education also. Education barriers are also created. Then persons with disabilities. Now, if we do not have sanitation facilities that are inclusive, that are accessible, how will person with disabilities use them? So they are not motivated to leave their house and go and work outside because of the poor infrastructure facilities or the non-inclusive infrastructure facilities that we have at the moment. Then children. This is another vulnerable section, because the open defecation, contaminated water, when this is consumed, especially by the children, they become very vulnerable to diseases like diarrhea, dysentery, typhoid, etc. So they are also a vulnerable section of the society. Conflict hit regions, where we have unstable economy, where people, they do not have a lot of infrastructure, when lives are at danger. These are also situations, these are also areas where sanitation facilities are not the top priority. And menstrual health inequality, like we already discussed, that if you do not have separate toilets, girls will refrain themselves from going to schools. And you will be surprised to know that menstrual health inequality is not a problem only of the low income countries. It persists throughout the high income countries also and middle income countries also. So this is a universal problem. So SDG 6 is not a standalone thing. It is directly related to health, education, and gender equality. So there is inequality across different levels. Sanitation is concerned with a lot of other things also. So what should be our way forward? First and foremost, we need to have good infrastructure, good sanitation infrastructure, affordable, accessible sanitation infrastructure, and behavioral changes also. Because many a times, especially in the rural areas or in the uneducated sections of the society, while people have access to sanitation facilities, they have toilets in their houses, but they will not use them. They refrain from building toilets within their houses because they consider it to be impure. So we need to have behavioral changes also in people, that they build toilets and they also use them. They use proper sanitation facilities. Then we need to focus on equity. We need to focus on the marginalized section, on the vulnerable section, on the person with disabilities, on women, on children. So we need to have a focus across all sections of the society. Strengthen our data systems, because as I already mentioned, if you do not know what the problem of the marginalized section is, how will you make good policies and how will you implement them? So we will not be able to help the people if we do not know what problems are they facing. So we need to have proper data tracking. Then we need to have policy and investment in the direction of sanitation. Infrastructure needs to be developed, investment needs to happen, good policies need to be made and implemented and executed. And successful case studies can also be studied. Like in the case of India, we have Swachh Bharat Mission, which came in 2014, and this has been doing pretty good. We have been able to go ODF plus. So we are dealing with building toilets in the household level, community toilets, public toilets, fecal sludge management. A complete sanitation life cycle is being built. So the world can also learn from India's successful case studies. India can learn from other successful case studies. So that was all for today's video. Now let us practice a question for prelims. Which of the following statements is or are correct regarding the WHO-UNICEF Joint Monitoring Program report on sanitation? 1. Open defecation in low-income countries is 4 times higher than the global average. 2. Latin America and Eastern Asia have nearly eliminated open defecation. 3. India has already achieved universal sanitation coverage according to all independent surveys. Select the correct answer. 1 only, 2 only, 1 and 2 only, 1 and 3 only. Please provide your answers in the comment section and we will meet in the next video.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.